to you about ways and things that you can do at home to support your learner. So by the visual here, as you can see, sometimes we think about what does success look like, and the one on the left is often what students might initially think. If it comes easily, if I get it before everyone else, like I'm not headed on the right track. And if my path is like this, I'm struggling, or this isn't for me. And so I hope this session gives you some new information. We know more about how students learn than ever before. And I'm going to share with you, I'm not coming just by myself. Today I'm going to be bringing some researchers with me, thinking about ways that we can support students in their definition of what does it mean to be successful at school. So our session today, we're going to be kind of interweaving these topics, ways that students can respond to learning. How do we build what we call habits of mind, ways of behaving intelligently? And what are some just general tips and strategies for homework and organization? Okay. So this slide is purposely covered, and it says characteristics of what we would call a student scholar. If you have something to write with, I would encourage you to jot down what would be words that would come to mind. What are you hoping for them when you think about their K-12 educational experience or beyond? Kind of from your list so far, it looks like most of you have 2 or 4. Maybe circle your most powerful phrase, or what might be right now, what are you most hoping for your child? At the very end of our presentation, we'll come back to this slide and I'll kind of reveal what might be behind here. And I imagine that most of them will be good matches. Okay, so I'm hoping that this session will help you feel that you're supporting your child with that skill or attitude that you have circled. Let's talk about homework a little bit. If you Google this or talk to your teachers, parent-teacher conferences for our elementary and middle schools are coming up this coming week. These are some general top tips and things that as I'm kind of reading through them or talking about them, be thinking about, yep, that's something that we have in place, or maybe this is something I could do more of, maybe there's something I need to do less of. So if we start at the bottom, know that if this has been a continual issue for you, depending on the year of your child, getting help, and that could be talking specifically with your teacher or other resources at school, and also through community ed. We offer various course opportunities, some support with math, as well as our community having some additional tutor offices. So make sure that if kind of things just continue to not progress but degress, there's also a chance that maybe your child could benefit from some additional support, maybe tested for a learning disability or something else that could help them be on the path towards learning. Also, today we're going to talk a little bit about our language, parent language and teacher language, and the importance of moving towards talking about effort. And I'll have a short little video that will be looking at that. But we often say things like, oh, you're so smart, or great job. Well, what was so great about it? So the more that we can add detail or talk about, I noticed that you spent a long time working on that math problem, and look, okay, you arrived at an answer. Okay? So as much details that we can give students around why we're praising them can be beneficial and help them know, what should I do next time? Number 7, be that good example, that role model parent. So if your child's doing homework, is there an opportunity for you to do some work too? Okay? Could you be sitting and reading, or maybe you're balancing your checkbook, or somehow just modeling that there's time, okay, that I need to set aside during my day to also do work. Okay, so that could be something to consider. Being that motivator, also monitor. Okay, checking in if they say they're going upstairs in their room working on homework. Just stopping by, making sure that's actually being done. Number 5 is always kind of a trick. Making sure that if the assignment is requiring for the student to do the work, to actually let them. Sometimes science fair projects or other things like that, we really like to jump in. But as much as possible, letting them go through that process is important. Kind of those top ones are probably some general things that we know. Trying to keep distractions low, make that plan with their child. We'll talk a little bit about that. If possible, having a set time or a day of the week in which you're doing the work, and then having a fun place in which they enjoy, or continuing to change it around can add some variety and make it fun. I think when we think about supporting learners, also thinking about the purpose of the homework can be helpful in knowing how much guidance or how involved you should be. So thinking about maybe the assignments that you've seen so far this year, be thinking about where do you think they fit for your learner. Is it more practice in which they're trying to master a certain skill? Is your child's homework something in which they're getting prepared to learn more of? So it's maybe just a quick quiz or read this material because we're going to be starting a unit on water or we're starting a unit on presidents. Some homework that we assign in schools is meant to extend, for students to apply what they've learned. And so these, and number 4, can sometimes be where students have that challenge because it's not just kind of a rote memory skill, but they're asked to do something in a new way. And that integration are some of those big projects like book reports or a PowerPoint presentation in which they're asked to use a variety of skills to make something new. But sometimes just knowing the purpose can kind of help you know how to monitor or guide your student. The U.S. Department of Education does have some online resources for parents. They have some specific tips for reading, homework guidance, things you can do at home, and also math. I just pulled these 3 out, and we're going to talk a little bit more about number 1, but it's important to watch if students are having a sense of failure or frustration, making sure to take breaks and to check in, stop. Let's come back to this after dinner or after we go to hockey practice. Also, something to be thinking about is for prioritizing work is helping your child come up with the language of this might be hard or long homework and this might be short or easy homework. And an activity that can be fun for students to do, and I know that I did this when I taught 5th grade, is just getting a container and you can have some rocks and some sand and say, rocks are the hard homework, or the big chores at home, and sand is the fun things you want to do or the easy homework. Let's see if we can fit it all in the jar. What would you like to do first? And most students take the fun and the sand first, and then put the rocks in the jar, and not all the rocks will fit. You've run out of time. If you put the rocks in first and then the sand, it's able to kind of sift through and it all ends up fitting. So helping students there's also the terminology of eat your frog. So eat the hard thing first, do the hard thing first, and then afterwards all the other things are going to be shorter, so you'll just breeze through them. So helping your learner maybe prioritize the homework. And also, as much as possible, trying to be positive about the homework. So depending on your learner, they might be more dreading it or exhausted, or they don't want to do it. But the more that you can be positive about that the schoolwork is helping their brain. The brain is a muscle, it's getting bigger. Let's see what we're going to learn today. That can help kind of just shift the environment or atmosphere or their own outlook themselves. Also, another strategy that we're working with teachers and students in the schools is trying to make our adult thinking more visible to students. We often think that they know, or we're trying to model things, but the more explicit we can be really helpful. So this routine might be helpful depending on maybe if you're working with them on reading or math or one of those integration projects where they're trying to pull a lot together. So that me is you as the parent. How can I make my thinking as I'm trying to problem solve through my day? Choosing what to make for dinner, just talking about all those steps so they begin to see that process. How can I make my students or my child's thinking more visible? Okay, asking them, tell me how you arrived at that answer. Okay, tell me more about this assignment and why you might be feeling frustrated or confused. And then thinking about how is space at home organized? Okay, do you have time to talk about thinking? And then how do maybe you facilitate that? So whether in the car or again while they're getting ready for bed, just ways that we can think more about thinking. That's one thing that research continues to talk about, that the more students talk about what they're learning, often the greater retention rate that they have. Okay. Okay. Also, some general organization when we think about that time for homework. These are some tips that we have found successful over the years at home. Thinking about calendars, you might have a monthly calendar on the fridge or somewhere in the kitchen. Actually, often for students, more of a weekly calendar is more manageable. Okay, you might need to have that month for your family just to know where everyone goes, but if you can then kind of break it down for a student just that week, otherwise they're overloaded. It's overwhelming. Also, thinking about a way that the calendar could be something that they might also cross off after they do it as well. This again helps with that prioritizing. Clocks can be helpful, and with cell phones and just all our digital world, it can be really hard for students to manage time. Okay? And so if there would be a way to bring back more of that old-fashioned clock, they could actually see the time ticking away. Okay? And more kind of visually see, oh, 5 minutes, that's what 5 minutes looks like, okay? Oh, okay, my goal is to spend, 20 minutes reading, that's what that looks like. Or actually also setting timers can be helpful, in which 20 minutes is set and they know that they're supposed to be working on that for that amount of time. And then when the buzzer goes off, there's an opportunity to do something different. Planners are always a trick, and some with our technology initiative. Maybe some of your children are in a one-to-one beta classroom this year, so have an iPad. So if they work well with technology, that's fine, but a planner, helping check it or sign it, that can be a way to just help them. Again, back to that prioritizing, what should we do first? Students often need support on that. And then just be pre-planning, how might you help with paper management, okay? The backpack or their room, or so is it folders? Some students have had success where it's more of a zippered type folder with a label. This is homework that's been completed. This is homework to do. So thinking about what you might have to plan for. Okay. So that was kind of a lot of information. Some of it I know was probably a good review for you, but what I'd like you to do is to have a chance to do what we call a quick write. So a way to interact with the material. So for 1 minute, kind of look through your notes, think back what you've been trying at home, just kind of record what's coming to mind. What might you want to do less of, more of, what you maybe need to check in with your learner about. And then we'll talk a little bit more about that when you're sensing. You want to finish your phrase or find a good stopping point. So that's also something that based on age, we have found that how old someone is, that's about the length of their attention span. Okay, so imagine a 9-year-old and an 8-year-old. Okay, so if you're expecting that they sit at the kitchen table for 30 minutes doing math developmentally, that just really isn't appropriate. Okay, so one other strategy with homework is maybe breaking it up into that little time chunk. Okay, so again, after they're 10, okay, they're 3rd and 4th grade, okay, about 10, 15 minutes, then they should be taking a break. And whether that's just going to get a drink or, running up and down the stairs, okay, some type of brain break, movement break, and then they can be back focused and ready to go. So something to consider. Okay, ideally, this is how we want our learners to be feeling about school, right? Okay, we got some students from Apple Valley High School, so still in high school, they're like, yay, okay, school today, I can't wait. learners feel like this. Okay? And again, it could be a variety of reasons. And so we also know that for students that these are statewide in Minnesota, that the circled is 100% statewide. We know that not all students are performing to that 100%. Okay? So this question of how do we support our learners is very important. And so as parents and as educators, we often ask this equation, this question, okay? If we believe that all students can learn, okay? Many students aren't learning maybe to that 100%, what's in the box? Sometimes is it their organizational skills, sometimes is it the content, sometimes is it the teacher they have, okay? Sometimes though, is it maybe what they know or feel about what it means to be successful, okay? Or their level of intelligence. Carol Dweck, okay, just with a thumb or hand, has anyone heard Carol Dweck before? Carol Dweck is a professor at Stanford University. She's written several books and done much research with children and adults across the country, finding out that all of us have one of two beliefs about our intelligence. You either believe you have a fixed mindset in which how smart you are is how smart you are. There's nothing you can do about it, okay? And a growth mindset is that intelligence and talent can go up and down. Okay? That with effort, things can change. Another look at this work, okay? On the left side again is a fixed mindset. Well, students that feel that kind of what they were born, that's how smart they are, at a certain point they're going to interact with a content area that's going to be challenging. And that's going to perhaps cause them to start avoiding challenges. And their main goal is to maintain an image of looking smart rather than become smarter. Okay, so they often give up easily. Why try? Okay, there's no reason to. They ignore feedback because, again, how is that going to help me? And when other students are successful, that shuts them down. A growth mindset, however, again, on the other spectrum, other people's success, hey, that's great. Okay, how did you do that? Maybe what you're doing will work for me too. Okay? They learn from feedback. They realize that with effort, okay, things can change. They're able to persist, keep going, trial and error. And again, that challenges, they realize that challenges are actually what help us to learn and grow. I'm going to share with you a short video clip, and I'm just going to share kind of the first 3 or 4 minutes of it. It's a little bit longer. But as the title says, it says if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. And this is huge for our learners, and especially as we look at the trends for girls or underrepresented students in certain content areas, that we're finding that we don't have that 50-50 balance. Our AP computer science classes, we don't have as many girls as many boys. Okay? AP physics, all of those things. Well, why? And Carol Dweck's research is showing that many high-performing girls, okay, high-achieving girls from grades 4 through 8th grade, especially are making decisions about those things and about their intelligence. And many of them might have a fixed mindset. The good news is you can change your mindset, okay? And one way is talking to students about their mindset. And so this video is titled, Why We Need to Fail. So if you have someone sitting next to you, feel free to turn to them and say, you know, if your child asked you that, how might you respond before watching the video, okay? And if you don't have someone next to you, you can just kind of think about that, okay? So if your child asks, well, why do I need to fail? Why are you telling me it's okay to make mistakes? What do you want to say?
Don't fail.
Why do I need to fail, Mom?
Don't worry, get it.
You never fail. You never try.
Sometimes
Yeah.
when these things early, because
Yeah.
they're longer wait.
It's okay because you are going to learn.
When it really counts. I'm like,
Okay, let's take a look. Derek Silvers is going to share in 3 reasons. We're match just one of them, but I'll tell you the other two. That he doesn't check.
All the time you
Let's check the volume
slide
here.
and you will know
Let's see.
which slide and which things.
I'll just check it here.
Hi, I'm Derek.
If you want to find a good positive point, we'll come and watch again just a portion of this. I'll kind of turn down the light so you can see it. I'm going to be thinking about
Yours from
how this relates to
This is why you need to
conversations you
fail.
maybe have had in the past.
I'm often invited to speak at conferences full of famous, successful people. They're all leaders of some sort. People look up to them. They're acclaimed and accomplished. They have a great reputation. Their struggling years of failure are behind them. And that's the problem. When you're green, you grow. When you're ripe, you rot. If you're not failing, you're not learning. So let's take a lesson from this and talk about 3 big reasons why you need to fail. First, if you're not failing, you're not learning. You know, the way you build muscle in a gym is you do something a little out of your capability so that the tiny little muscle fibers actually tear. Then, as they repair themselves, they rebuild a little stronger and a little bigger to adapt. That's why they say no pain, no gain, and it's the same with the brain. Look at these 2 sets of words for a few seconds. The second set is intentionally missing a letter in each word. So take 10 seconds to read both sides, okay? So tests show that when quizzed afterwards, people remembered 3 times as many words from the second column, the one that was missing letters. It's like when you saw the words with the blank spaces, you struggled with it for just a second, then you figured it out. But that 1 second of struggle made all the difference. To learn something effectively, you must make mistakes and pay attention to those mistakes. So let's look at a similar test. Everyone was given a paper with some facts. Group A studied the paper for 4 separate sessions. Group B studied only once, but then was tested 3 times and shown their mistakes after each test. A week later, both groups were tested, brought back and tested again. Group B scored 50% higher than Group A. That means that they had studied 1/4 as much, but learned far more. So making mistakes, being in over your head and failing, this is proven to teach better than lots of advanced preparation. This is not just for memorizing, but for anything. Practicing music, for example. I went to Berklee College of Music, and our music teacher taught us that if what we're doing in the practice room sounds good, then it's not practice. Now I get what he meant. So some students would just play what they know, start to finish. If I was in the practice room, sometimes I could hear the student in the next room just playing everything start to finish perfectly. But then one time I was in the practice room next to one of the best musicians in school, and I was surprised to hear that everything coming out of his practice room just sounded like short phrases that making lots of mistakes each time, like so lots of mistakes, focusing on tiny little phrases. So doing what you know is fun, but it doesn't improve you. The most effective way to improve at anything is to find what you're not good at, to find the painful, the difficult activities that will make you better, then do those things over and over again until you've got it. If you're interested in this, there are 2 great books about it. The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle, and Talent is Overrated by Jeff Coleman. So, Michael Jordan, basketball legend, your turn.
I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed.
So that's the first portion of the video, and his reasons for why you need to fail. Number 1, that's how we learn. that it's okay to make mistakes. And this is something that we're working on as a school district, ways that teachers and in the classroom, we can make sure that that's a message that that's being sent. I remember last summer working with some middle school math teachers at one of our middle schools, and we watched this video and we talked about, do you think students in your class feel like it's okay to make a mistake? And I'm like, wow, I don't know if we really talk about that. And one teacher decided that they were going to change kind of one of the displays in their classroom to have the mistakes learning board. And so assignments actually went up that highlighted a mistake and then what the students learned from it versus just maybe someone, the perfect papers or things like that. He goes on to talk about that another reason you need to fail is based on the growth mindset. Again, continuing to build your muscles. And then the other is life experience. So that's something that is important for you to know as you move and grow. Okay. So when we think about this, there's a book that I brought it with me, Mindsets in the Classroom. So taking that idea of the two types of mindsets and how do we build cultures of success for students? How can we help change students thinking about success and performance? And they have done some additional research with students in grades kindergarten through 3rd grade. And so what this table is underneath here is how many students have a growth mindset. My brain's a muscle, okay? Success is that squirrely line. And then how many students feel success is this way. And either you're on that track or not. So kind of mentally make a prediction of what you might picture at each of these grade levels. So it's concerning. And when I first turn to this page in the book, it's kind of you just stop and you don't really know how to at first move forward, except when you have that knowledge that it can change. As students learn more about their brain and how it works and have an environment in which they're praised for effort, students from this side can begin to move to this side. So again, our youngest learners coming in, feeling that they can conquer the world, and our goal is to continue to make some changes and support in which students know that that still is a possibility for them. So some of the things that we're trying out in some of our schools is doing more brain awareness. So this might be something that you could be supporting at home. So when we think about our brain and the connections that it's making with neurons, that when we first do something, okay, that connection is really weak. Okay? It's kind of, ooh, okay? So picture when a child maybe is learning to walk, or the first time they're maybe learning to tie their shoe. Sometimes they get the rabbit ears and sometimes they don't. But eventually it becomes something more like this thick rope. So even having, some of our teachers are having these actual tangible visuals for students. So long division, okay, that first time, they kind of have a picture of a fishing wire or dental-floss and say, maybe the connection isn't quite there yet, okay? But as we go on, okay, picture, if you remember tug-of-war and Phi N, those big ropes, okay? So having these visuals and for our students to realize the more you do something, the more that connection is going to get stronger and stronger and stronger, and it will become easier and more manageable for you. Okay, so maybe thinking about, does your child maybe need a visual to help them remember how their brain works. Also introducing that language of my strong and not yet neural connections. So this is a picture of a young student in class, kind of already being asked to think about their day and where do they have a strong connection and maybe a not yet. Okay, so that could be, again, you're sensing some frustration during a homework time. Using this language might support them. Even having them draw out some pictures that pictures are sometimes worth 1,000 words. Could also check in this weekend. What does your child think about their brain or know? So this is a picture. Draw a picture of what you think your brain looks like. Write everything you know about your brain. Okay? Do they realize it's a muscle? Do they realize that it can grow and they can make more connections, that they can become smarter? Smart is not something you are, it's something you become. So it'd be good to check in where they might be. Okay. I'd like us to have a chance for another quick break, and I have some choices for you. Maybe in thinking about connecting to what we've heard here about growth and fixed mindset, the importance of talking about the reason to fail. So how did this connect to what you already know? Maybe it's an extension. What new ideas are pushing you? What might be still challenging or confusing? And then what might you do with this information? So I'll give us a couple minutes. If you aren't sitting next to someone, feel free to move up or turn or do some personal reflection. I'll give us 2 minutes and then we'll talk about some more strategies. Okay, we'll come back together as a group here. You'll have another chance to check in with your neighbors here. Again, thinking about the fixed and growth mindset and also the talk about failure, a couple other things. This applies to all ages. Okay? So as I began reading more about this, I began seeing the fixed and growth mindset in myself. Okay? And one of the things I enjoy triathlons. And so swimming is my sport that I need to work a little bit more on, but I decided I really want to learn how to do the butterfly, kind of during the Olympics. Oh, that'd be cool. Okay, in the pool, just wasn't quite getting that dolphin kick, and I thought, and I'm like, Cathy, growth mindset, right? Effort, and you're going to get it. So it applies to yourself as an adult. This is also especially challenging around the areas of math. Having been a 5th grade teacher for 6 years, many times during that parent-teacher conference, hearing parents say, I never was good at math either. So it's like, oh no, that's a fixed mindset. So that's when we're talking about supporting our learners, making sure that our own language by, whether it's hanging up picture frames, oh, I'm not good at this, okay? Not yet. Okay, start using that yourself in the language, okay? Don't know how to change the tire yet, okay? But that's something that I could be going towards. Also with failure, it's important to talk about, and this is some of my newer reading and talking with students and teachers, just being careful. We really don't want kids to fail, do we? Okay? You want them to have the persistence to keep going or the willingness to try it for the first time and make a mistake. So another way to think about fail, first attempt in learning. If you make it an acronym, F for first, okay, attempt in learning. Okay? And that idea that you don't want them to stop at that failure point, you want them to keep going. But to know that it's okay to make a mistake along the way, that's how we learn, but we're going to keep going. Okay? And that's something that sometimes we don't always get to that second message. We're just like, it's okay to fail. No, we really don't want F's in all of our classes, and we don't want you dropping out of gymnastics. No, we want you to keep going. Okay? So just something to keep in mind. This picture here is just to mention Minneapolis, St. Paul, our metro area continues over and over in reports to be known as one of the top 10% high-tech hubs in the nation. Okay, so we're living in an area with industry and communities that are driving innovation. And the students that are in these seats, okay, in all our other buildings, okay, and in your homes that might not yet be in school, are going to be the ones that are going to be building their future. This is an example of some of the grand challenges that engineers and scientists globally feel that students currently, these are some of the problem-solving opportunities they're going to have. Okay? So thinking about, we want students to be able to move beyond that failure, but they're going to need certain characteristics in order to be able to be problem solvers in these areas. So this is another, perhaps something that you've seen before, another mathematical equation in some ways, asking what makes 100%. So at home and in schools, okay, we're challenging again the environment that we're trying to create. Are we emphasizing knowledge and or attitude as being 100%. And is there a balance? And this is an activity you can do depending on your age of students. We have some that have been doing it in classes or something to do at home. In this kind of activity, it's just the alphabet, 1 through 26 in order. But how much is knowledge worth? And you actually add up the letter with the number that it corresponds. So 11 plus 14 plus 15 plus 23. And you add up the letters, okay? And then you add up attitude. Okay? I'm going to give you a chance to choose one of the words. Okay? If you have a digital device for your phone, feel free to use that tool. But add up one of them. If you've done this activity before, just be thinking about, what have you been seeing from school or from your child's teacher? Is this maybe a conversation to have at conference time? Okay, of things that you're noticing, or what might you be emphasizing at home? Okay, so I'll give you a chance to choose one, and then we'll share out the responses. Some of the pens and pencils have stopped, so when we ask that question, what makes 100%? Okay, if, depending on which one you did, attitude comes out at 100, okay, but knowledge is close behind, right? So we need both of them. But sometimes, depending on the subject area or the grade level, it seems like this one is emphasized a little bit more than this one. And that's where, when you think about the support for your learner, an opportunity that you can be supporting that attitude and encouragement as well. We're trying to create in District 196 what we call our 4C classrooms, in which there's an emphasis on critical thinking, creativity, working together, that collaboration, and not only collaboration within the classroom, but collaboration globally now that we have the various technology in our schools, collaboration with business professionals, and also that communication. Okay, so again, these are more those skills or habits or attitudes that can help students with the knowledge. Okay. Also, perhaps you've heard of 21st century skills. This is a list that when you think about curriculum or assignments, programming that we're bringing into the district, ways that we can align with these types of things. Also, a portion of my position is working with business and community partners. So I recently, just on Thursday, was at Delta Airlines. Their IT department is located in Egan. We were talking with their HR and some of their other professionals there, talking about what are they noticing, what needs do they have, ways that we can partner on STEM programming at the secondary level. They talked a lot about, we have lots of people apply that have the knowledge or have, that content, but we need people that have also those soft skills. Can they communicate? Can they problem solve? Can they tackle this? And what if there's a bug? Can they figure out and be flexible and stick with it? So those are the things that they feel that we can help support also in our schools. This is a long list. This list is an example of what we call habits of mind. Habits of mind came from some researchers wondering about successful people in businesses and wondering, is there anything that's common about all these people that are successful in their field? And they found that there is some commonality, certain attitudes, habits that successful people have. And again, just like a growth mindset, these are skills and attitudes that can be developed and supported. So I'm going to share with you another just short clip related to these 16 habits of mind, just explaining what it is. It's going to just be a couple minutes, and then I'll go through some examples of different lists. And I'll think about which ones maybe your child could benefit from.
We're going to talk about the students' academic performance. If we're going to talk about their growth, we better also integrate into all of that the habits of mind. Now, what we find very often is that when people are using the habits of mind in that way, they consider it more like a kind of a code of conduct. So here's what I mean by that. People say very often, I don't know, nobody here is as old as I am, I'm sure of that, but did anybody have a report card that had conduct on it? Oh, so a few people of you. Okay, so I had a report card that had conduct on it. And when I was growing up, I always had all A's and B's and a D in conduct. And my mother would always say to me, "What is it with you? You can't keep your mouth shut for 3 minutes." And they would always say, "Bennett is a very lovely girl, but she just can't keep quiet." Now, if I were in today's classroom, you'd probably be okay with me. But at that time, it was like nobody ever let me say anything, so I just offered it. So that was called conduct. Well, now, what I think we're doing is we're not talking about that as, are you quiet or are you noisy? Are you obedient? Are you not? What we're really talking about is how do you conduct yourself as a learner? That's a different kind of conduct. How do you conduct yourself as a learner? You're in a learning environment. How do you conduct yourself? And that's one of the reasons why we see the habits of mind as being so important, because they really are a way of naming explicitly how do you conduct yourself as a learner. And so, they're not isolated from content. You're doing that wonderful project on the Civil War that I saw up on the wall. And the question would be, how are you conducting yourself as a learner with regard to this? Are you finding that you're willing to struggle in the face of uncertainty? Are you being persistent? Are you finding that, in fact, in those literature circles, that you're not really willing to take a risk? Well, what would it mean to take a responsible risk? Because that's conducting yourself as a learner.
So that's a little clip there, just a little background information about habits of mind and that phrase, conducting yourself as a learner. I'll have to try the lights again here. But there's many different lists. If you were to do some searching on habits of mind, different things would come up. This is a common list that can be used again all the way up into adulthood, but just different ways of thinking about, again, interacting and problem solving through situations. And I'll stop on one of them so you'll have a chance to record some ideas. This is also a list that are currently in a number of our schools, kind of combining lots of different resources to coming up with this list here of being adventurous, asking questions, what does it mean to look carefully, supporting ideas with reasons why. There certainly are shorter lists or lists specific to a content area. So this is an example coming from our Next Generation Science Standards nationally. What are habits of mind that would help students with engineering? And engineering is a standard in kindergarten, 2nd and 4th grade, 6th grade. Okay, so systems thinking, how does everything work together? What happens if a piece is missing? Creativity is huge. Optimism. Attention to ethical considerations, okay? Even though I can do it, should I do it? Okay? Those types of things. Another book that has just recently come out, Classroom Habitudes. So taking that 16, 15, that's kind of daunting, just paring it down. Okay? We're also asking teachers to maybe choose 1 or 2 that they're being responsive to their learners. They're seeing, oh, maybe this is a way I could support them or help develop this in the assignments that they do and the questions that I ask. Okay? So I'll go back to this initial list here and just give you a chance to kind of look through and maybe choose 1 or 2 that you think, you know, my child is doing great in this area, okay, really modeling this type of behavior. And what's one maybe at home that we could start working towards, okay, maybe in the pictures that we do or when we're playing a game that I could speak to this. So I'll just give you a moment to look at that. Again, you can take it personally too. Where do you fit in? Strengths in some not yet areas. So again, we're trying with our teachers to put some action behind these. So one of those is striving for accuracy, number 6. And looking at the ways some teachers are trying to make some modifications in grading techniques. So maybe you've gotten home a math worksheet or spelling, and there's lots of things circled, okay? Instead, thinking back to that question of who's doing more work, and this can be a strategy when helping or monitoring your child's homework at home. Instead of maybe reading through or circling all the misspellings, just instead on the side say, recheck this paragraph. There's 2 mistakes. Okay? Oh, okay, now again, who's doing more work? Now they're the one striving for accuracy. That should be a question mark instead of a period. I was really asking a question. Or, checking through their basic facts, and you realize a couple of them are wrong. You, again, could just say along that row, one of these you need to recheck. Okay, so then they're doing the one that are striving for that accuracy. So that's also a way that we're trying to kind of take these certain habits and then think about what practices are either aligning to this or do we need to change. Okay? Okay, so habits of mind. These are some other things that we're doing in schools that you could support at home. Just talking about what is a habit through poems or just a conversation. If you're a quote person or maybe have things at home, ways that you could bring out quotes, or maybe at work professionally you're hearing these, share them with your child and talk about how they align with a habit of mind. Thinking about what is this going to, that top one is what we call a Y chart. What does it feel like, look like, and sound like if you're doing this activity, okay, or doing this habit of mind? Okay, so if you are being adventurous or curious, what is that going to look like at home? You can also change the words, so maybe persistent really isn't connecting with your child. Use practicing or sticking with it instead. Okay, so feel free to use language that's going to fit for your learner. Also in the games you might play, okay, at home, think about ways that you could pull out a habit that they could be developing while you play that game. If you're doing some extra reading, or this one is fun, if you're watching the news or you get magazines or newspapers, what examples from the community or your family that you can find that are doing the habits of mind, and how did that habit of mind help them achieve something? Okay? So a way to bring in some of the current events that are happening around. Also just talking with your child about famous people or current people that have overcome. Again, in order to be successful, again, that success is that squiggly line versus just a straight diagonal. Just fun activities. There's different books like Successes or Failures That Worked, something that you could pick up at a bookstore or examples online. These are just helping students, again, think success or failure. So if you choose one of these boxes and just read it, I'll reveal to you who is behind it. If you have good short-term memory, that athlete that missed his target 9,000 times, okay, that was Michael Jordan. A politician that was defeated 7 times, okay, Abraham Lincoln, glad that he stuck with it. 23 publishers said no to his first book. Thank you, Dr. Seuss, okay, again, for sticking with it. Also having conversations at home about what I do and then what are the results. Okay? I go to bed early on school nights, possible results. Okay? I don't go to bed early, what are the results? I take notes, I remember my backpack, I remember my band instrument, possible results. Okay? So really making that tangible for students. Okay? And then just having, again, conversations in the car or other places about, what stops us from sticking with the problem, or what do we learn, or how are we doing. Thinking about, and these are strategies, things that you can ask your teachers for. Okay? Ask for support, saying, what are some phrases and things I can be asking my child to help support them as a conductive learner. I also wanted to show, if you're kind of more visual or into the scrapbooking type things, there's lots of free online places in which, these are kind of those professional posters you see maybe in a doctor's office, but you can personalize these, okay? And so you can kind of that caught being good idea, so feel free to think about ways that maybe your family could personalize, and these just print out 8.5 by 11, it could be black and white too, so ways that you can again honor and promote that effort piece versus just that language of you're so smart. And that's relates to this one, how we can change our language. So, oh, sorry, Hetty, that's wrong. Okay, is there a way that we could say, I'm noticing here that there might be something you want to check. Okay, what might we do about it? Or I don't know how to do this. Okay, well, where might you start? Okay, so again, asking those questions back, just helping support them through. And there's some helpful books on that too. Any books that you might be reading from the public library or from home, pretty much any book you can begin to make a connection with the habit of mind as well by the fun characters that they might be reading about. Okay? These are just some examples showing you what's happening in some of our classrooms where we have wonder walls, where we're talking about curiosity challenges, just trying to foster, again, that wonderment and creativity again. There's websites like Photo of the Day or Wonderopolis that, again, just encourage students to be kind of thinking about the world around them. We're trying to bring back some wonder tables, wonder walls, wonder windows, so maybe there's something that you could try at home. Like example, the windows, we have notebooks in front of windows and students can just jot down what they're wondering about or what they see through the window. Some of our kindergarten teachers have little cutouts of shapes and the students have to look through the window and just that part and what do they see. Okay, so think, what could you try at home? I might just again encourage that. Photos can be fun from history to invite curiosity. And different graphic organizers as well. So I'd like to give you just a moment. This was kind of a lot of information. Hopefully you're taking away that kind of that one takeaway. So maybe look through your notes or just kind of reflect what might be a star next to your takeaway from today's session on supporting your learner. You usually have about 100 hours to do something with a new idea. So just even putting a star next to it, and maybe even sharing it with the person you're seated next to, that's going to put you on the right direction. So we're talking about the characteristics of that student scholar. So certainly there's the content, but there's also that attitude or habit or skills section. And I would encourage you to continue to do what you're doing related to the attitude and habit. Okay? So this is my contact information. Again, I'm one of our district's teaching and learning coordinators. So if you have questions or down the road would like some additional ideas for supporting your learner around habits of mind, you're welcome to contact me. I'd be happy to email you either some book references or handouts or just talk with you more about what you could do. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.